So for today's rule, we're using a resistance band, and I'll try to put a link to this kit. It's my favorite kit. I use it when I travel. I use it at my camps. It has like carabiners that snap on. I actually did a whole video on it, but I'll try to put the link somewhere. But any kind of resistance band will do, so go dig in. You probably have one maybe left over from physio, or your mom has one, or go dig one out, and then we're gonna look at habit number 5. So when we talk about habit number 5, it's what you see in actually just the best of the best. So the very top level of pro goalies, they have this element, and they are training off the ice in a way that lets them use it on the ice, and it's how they use compound movements to train. What's a compound movement? Well, a compound movement is where you're going to generate some force with a prime mover, but also use your stabilizers to translate that force. Often it's sort of a multiplanar movement, so it's not just moving in one direction. So when we start talking about compound movement patterns, this is where we lose people, because people are like, oh yeah, like sports specific, I know, and then they want to do you know, like exactly their goalie patterns at goalie speed, but off the ice. So it's different surface, different friction, and they want to add load to it. And that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about, hey, what are some of the muscle patterns that work together? So let's look at our groins or our adductors, because that's a common one that some of you experience tightness, and a lot of you experience tweaks and injuries there. So let's look at our adductors. You know, what do they need to do on the ice? Well, we need to have length in them, because we need to, you know, get wide, or even from our butterfly, we need to be able to kick out. So, okay, that's not so much of a problem. This is sort of a uniplanar movement, a single plane movement. But when do we get in trouble? Well, we kind of get in trouble sometimes when we're in that lengthened position, but then we have to reach this way, or we have to reach back in this direction. That is often where an injury occurs. So, you know, can we train? We've created a weak link somewhere in that chain. Maybe we haven't. You know, if you think of it in terms of a connective tissue, our adductors kind of interface with our abdominal obliques and even up into our pecs and what goes on with our upper body. So if we're really, you know, lengthened here, we're rotating here, and now I go to reach, well, boom, now I've created, you know, overload on the chain, and the chain's going to break at the weakest link, and often it is our groin. So can we train in ways that sort of help our body learn? Oh yeah, this is a pattern that we have to use. It's very similar to the mobility stuff we talked about yesterday. We have to sell our nervous system on the idea that I can do these movements. I know how to control these movements, and the way we do that is by training those movements and training them under some load. So you'll see in a second, the first exercise I'm going to give you is a lateral hop to a lateral raise. So I'm going to drive off my outside leg. I'm holding a dumbbell here, or in this case, I'm holding a resistance band. I'm going to drive off that, but I have to stay stable in my torso so that I don't kind of side bend and cheat. And then I'm going to hold all that stability, keep that power going, and finish here, holding the resistance here, where it's trying to pull me back and around. So there's the multiplanar, but I'm going to use my abdominals and also this hip to stabilize and control. Because it's one thing too to accelerate, to generate speed and power, but the other key element is we have to be able to decelerate that speed and power with balance, with stability, so that now I'm set up to go anywhere else that I need to move next. There's nothing, it doesn't help us if we, you know, give a desperation save, like a pure desperation save. We've given it all we've got, we've spread everything out, and we've got nowhere to go because we aren't balanced, we aren't stable, we aren't back in a power position. Ideally, anytime we move, we want to move with as little force as possible, like just using the minimal amount of power it makes me to get from where I am to where I need to be, and to arrive so that I'm compact and ready to go wherever I need to be next. I have my resistance band just attached to a power rack, or something that it isn't going to pull across the floor, and I'm starting here with my elbow just at 90 degrees, holding the band here with my elbow right at my side. I'm going to get nice and low in my trail leg, and I'm going to lateral hop. As I lateral hop, I'm driving out so that I finish with my forearm parallel to the floor, my elbow bent to 90 degrees, and my shoulder raised at about 90 degrees. So this band is trying to pull me back that way. So there's a lot of rotary stabilization that I'm having to do with this hip to keep that nice balanced position. And then I'll come back, load, drive it back up, find that balance. Quick push, find that balance, staying strong in my torso. So as I push, I'm not leaning towards the anchor point. Even when I come down, I'm not swinging way around this way. I'm just coming down, up. And really sticking that balance when I get to the top position. Not for convenience, but to really make sure I have it. So, you know, even hold that position, 1, 2, 3, and go. 1, 2, 3, and go. And you'll do about 8 to each side. On the in-depth YouTube version of this video, we talked about how our adductors, our groins integrate with our abdominal muscles. So we're going to do a pull-off press with a rotation. So I'm in a wide stance here, but staying nice and tall. So I don't want to get, you know, my torso coming forward just for the sake of getting wider. I want to get as wide with my feet as I can, but still stay tall. Then I'm going to use my abdominal muscles and actually feel like you're using them to rotate almost sort of from kneecap to kneecap. Feeling that that rotation is coming from here. That's really important because you can kind of do it using your arms or not really getting the benefit. So it ties into the mobility stuff we did yesterday, is that you have to consciously feel that you're using the right muscles. And we'll do about 12 facing this way and then 12 facing the other direction. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible for you to do these drills. So I'm just saying, okay, let's say you only have one resistance band at home. So I've just doubled it up to give myself more resistance. Under normal circumstances, I'd have a super band around my hips, and then I might put a heavier resistance band on the handle here. But I want to kind of mimic, like, hey, I'm just, yeah, like I literally just went and dug something out of my closet, and here we go. So this one we're going to look a little bit at stability coming into and out of the RVH, because it doesn't, you know, if you get into the RVH, but then to get out of it, you have to kind of huck yourself up there. That's putting you out of position. So I've got pretty heavy resistance here. I'm not going to slam down into my RVH, and a little buyer beware, because again, there's a lot of instant off-ice training experts popping up on the Instagram and you know, saying, oh, I spent yesterday coming up with some new drills for you. It's like, okay, well, some of us have spent the last more than 15 years coming up with drills for you and testing them on actual goalies and, you know, figuring out what works. So be a little aware if people are like, you know, like from just a standing, like smashing into their butterfly and, you know, trying to basically play on off ice the way they would on the ice. That isn't the stuff you need to work on right now. And it might feel good because it feels like psychologically like you're doing something, but it actually is going to add more wear and tear to your hips over time. So let's use this time the best that we can to do some deliberate practice on specific movement patterns. It's going to give us the tools to then take onto the ice, so that when we get on the ice, I promise you, if you do them, you're going to feel better when you get back on the ice. You're going to be surprised that you actually feel better getting back onto the ice after doing some of this stuff than you did before. So that's your little public service announcement. But so I'm going to start here in a nice low but a good wide position, and I know that might not be how you're going to stand on the ice, but I want to minimize the wear and tear on my hip, but just work the pattern. So I'm here, I'm going to come down, boom, into my RVH. I'm going to lean my shoulder over this hip, but stay nice and strong in my torso. See, I'm getting a little bit of trunk rotation with that. Then I'm going to turn my head in my hands, and come back up. So I'm looking out here now. Now I'm coming into my RVH, my head and my hands lead, boom, and I'm coming down into that position. The resistance band will actually help sort of pull me out of the RVH a little bit, which I also help because, again, it takes a little bit of the wear and tear off. But you have to concentrate, actually feel that you're having a nice strong torso, feel that you're leading with your head and your hands, going into and coming out. This one is along a similar lines, but it's working on getting that rotary power that you need. So if I'm going to lead with my head and my hands, well, I can't just do that and then kind of push from here. I need to have my hips kind of snap around with me. And what lets me do that is having a strong torso. Not the kind of, not strong abs you get from, you know, doing crunches or whatever, but a functionally strong torso. So in this compound pattern, we're going to start with our head in our hands, boo, and then bringing this foot around and snapping our hips with it. Coming back, we're going to control that. We're not going to just let this bungee pull us back because we want to control it in a shortening pattern and in a lengthening pattern. So again, head and hands lead, and then the hips and foot snap around. And controlling it back. And you do 6 to 8 on each side for that one. This will be the last one I'll give you for today. It's an opening step, opening row. So I'm starting, my knees are just slightly bent. And as I row, my hips open up at the same time, but I keep my knees wide. So I try to keep this knee pointing over these toes, this knee pointing over those toes. I don't want to kind of have my knees pinching in as I do that rotation. So I'm opening up my hip. I'm using the muscles on the outsides of my hips to keep those knees nice and wide. And again, I have to keep a nice strong torso so that it all comes around together. My elbow comes up almost like you're drawing a bow and arrow. That's the pattern. I'll come back down, open up the other way, draw that bow and arrow, keep those knees nice and wide. And you might notice, like, even look at your knees. Does one kind of always fold in, or do you not have the range of motion to keep it out there? Take a little second to look down at your pattern. I can see that I have more trouble keeping my right knee out than my left. And I'm actively pushing through my foot and my leg as I initiate that row. So that's an opening step and row. So that's a really nice compound movement in a multi-planar drill. So we've got that rotation, but we also have the straight line pull. We're opening up our hips. We're using our lateral hip muscles, using our glutes, but also the back of our shoulder, our mid-back. The muscles of our mid-back tie into the opposite side glute. So it's kind of a nice way to work that chain as well. And we do about 8 to 12 on each side, depending on the strength of your resistance band. For most of us, if you've been working out, I would like you to stay around the 6 or 8 range and use a heavier resistance on that one. But if you only have a light band, then, you know, build it up to as much as 12. Don't do like 30 or something like that, but build it up to as much as 12. So that is how the top pro goalies sort of use compound movements so that they're gaining the tools they need on the ice with their off-ice training. They're not just building strong, dumb muscles, as you've heard me say lots of times. They're building strength in these patterns. So don't forget to tune in tomorrow for habit number 6. I'll tell you, it's another habit where most pro goalies... Did you hear that? Where most pro goalies are getting a failing grade. And I'll show you what to do so that you're not making the same mistakes. If you like this video, which I know you did because you've watched it this far, give it a like, please. It lifts my spirits. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you get a notification when I post new videos, because I'm posting every day for the next little while, so you don't want to miss that. Otherwise, you be well. See you tomorrow.